I'm Angela Pasha, and I help leaders in libraries and higher education confidently manage change and conflict so that you can feel better about going to work. One of the ways that I do that is by teaching you to adapt core coaching skills to lead your team with curiosity. The foundation for using a coaching approach to leadership is developing your coaching mindset. Once you train your brain to lean into curiosity before it jumps to giving advice, then everything else comes more easily. When I start teaching managers about core coaching skills, they often get hung up on the technicalities of asking the perfect coaching question for the situation. So much so that it gets in the way of focusing on what their employee is actually saying. When you're genuinely curious about what your employee has to say, for example, what ideas they already had to solve a challenge before they come to you about it, instead of just focusing on using this technique to reach an outcome, then it's a lot easier to ask great open-ended coaching questions that move the conversation forward. My approach, both as a coach and in teaching you to lead with curiosity, is based in the skills and competencies outlined by the International Coaching Federation. In Lead with Curiosity, we only focus on the parts of these core competencies that are most relevant to your work as managers. So there's a lot of really intense professional coaching stuff in there that really feels out of reach for most managers that I've talked with. As a manager, even if you don't like using that name, uh, there's department heads, unit heads, team leaders, deans, directors. I'm just calling y'all managers. If you're in a much more complicated net of relationships than most external coaches are with their clients, and you have less time to focus on coaching. You're caught in the middle between demands coming from above and the needs of your team members. When your dean or director, board, provost, or whoever demands that you find a way to keep the library open later, or add a new time-intensive process like offering notary services, or increase your programming offerings with no additional staff lines while your employees are already feeling stretched to the breaking point, that can strain your relationships with your team members. And all of those emotions can affect how willing your team members will be to open up and engage when you try to coach them. You're also caught in the middle between competing interests just within the members of your team. You want to give everyone some autonomy to pursue the projects that they find most meaningful, but you also need them to work together towards some shared goals and departmental/library-wide outcomes. Lead with Curiosity isn't about becoming a professional coach. It's about adapting the most relevant coaching competencies to your work as a leader while navigating these messy relationships. That said, the one that we really do focus in on is the coaching mindset competency because it's directly relevant to your work as a leader. You can work on that part even when you're still building the trust that you need for your employees to feel safe being coached. You can intentionally shift your mindset even when it feels like you have no time to practice actually doing the coaching. Last year, I created an email mini course that dives into how the ICF markers of a coaching mindset connect directly to your work as library leaders. I included it as an early bird bonus for those who enrolled in Lead with Curiosity. Participants received the full series before our first session, so they had time to start shifting into a more curious mindset before day one. And modeling their focus on continual improvement, the ICF just did another revision of their core competencies, including updating the markers that they use to evaluate whether someone embodies a coaching mindset. Now, these are behaviors that show up when you fully embrace your curiosity and that create a positive feedback loop. Practicing these behaviors help you to stay in that more curious mindset, and that more curious mindset makes it easier to practice these behaviors, and so on. The new list has 10 items where the previous version only had 8, but they're all interconnected. So I'm going to mostly copy this list, but I am slightly tweaking the wording to fit your context as a managerial coach instead of a professional coach. So, one, acknowledges that employees are responsible for their own choices. Two, engages in ongoing learning and development as a leader, including ongoing learning about using a coaching approach as a leader. Three, develops an ongoing reflective practice to enhance one's coaching. Four, remains aware of and open to the influence of biases, context, and culture on self and others. Five, uses awareness of self and one's intuition to benefit those being coached. Six, develops and maintains the ability to manage one's emotions. Seven, maintains emotional, physical, and mental well-being in preparation for, throughout, and during each coaching interaction. Eight, seeks help from outside sources when necessary. Nine, nurtures openness and curiosity in oneself, one's team members, and the coaching process. And 10, remains aware of the influence of one's thoughts and behaviors on the client and others. So that sounds like a whole lot, right? But again, they're all interconnected. And each one of these on their own can improve your relationships and build trust with your team members as you show that you trust them to be responsible for their own choices, including accepting the consequences of those choices, as you stay aware of the way that your biases may affect the way you see things, as you prioritize well being in your interactions, and so on. I'm going to be revising my Cultivate Curiosity mini course to reflect these changes in the next couple of weeks so that it's ready to go out as an early bird bonus for those who sign up for Lead with Curiosity 2026. Of course, I'll let you know once I've finished those revisions in case you want to work on embracing your curious mindset before you decide whether to commit to Lead with Curiosity. In the meantime, what questions do you have about these components of embodying a coaching mindset? When you think about how each of these might connect to your work in leading a team, which ones feel more or less obviously relevant? Drop a comment below. And of course, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Have a great day, and I can't wait to hear from you.